For anyone wondering why electricity bills keep climbing while energy companies post record profits, the Hulkcom Energy System seems instantly appealing. The device promises complete energy independence, no grid connections, no monthly payments, just unlimited clean power generated on-site. According to its inventor, it has already powered homes, offices, and factories without drawing a single watt from outside sources. It sounds like every homeowner's dream. But before the excitement takes over, there's something critical to understand about the physics behind these claims. The Physics-Defying Promise. Dr. Robert Hall didn't just claim to build a better generator. He claimed to break the fundamental laws of physics that govern every power source on Earth. Hulkcom claims the energy system represents something far more radical. A machine that supposedly produces more usable electrical energy than the system consumes by manipulating magnetic flux in a closed loop, violating principles that have governed physics since the 1800s. At the center of this innovation lies what Hulkcom calls an electromagnetic energy generator, a device that allegedly manipulates magnetic flux in a closed-loop system to create endless power. According to the company, the core mechanism involves precisely arranged permanent magnets and copper coils that create continuous push-pull motion, generating steady electrical current without any external input whatsoever. Think of it as a perpetual motion machine disguised as cutting-edge technology. Hulkcom claims the magnets interact with the coils in a specific pattern that maintains its own momentum while simultaneously producing usable electricity. This contrasts sharply with every known power source on the planet. Solar panels need sunlight hitting photovoltaic cells to generate current. Wind turbines need moving air to rotate their blades. Hydroelectric dams need flowing water to spin their generators. Even nuclear plants need uranium fuel rods undergoing fission to create heat for steam turbines. Every conventional power source requires an external energy input to function. The HES claims to need absolutely nothing. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted from one form to another. Hulkcom's claims directly conflict with this fundamental principle that governs every known physical process in the universe, from stellar fusion to chemical reactions to mechanical motion. Critics immediately invoke these thermodynamic laws when evaluating such extraordinary promises. Hulkcom's promises go beyond simple electricity generation. This compact unit allegedly powers a 12,000 square foot building while producing zero emissions, making zero noise, generating no waste heat, and containing no moving parts that wear out from friction. Just silent, continuous power flowing from the interaction between magnets and coils in a self-sustaining loop that supposedly never stops and never slows down. The system includes supporting components designed to handle modern power demands. Hulkcom claims its inline power generators can amplify output from renewable sources, allegedly boosting solar or wind power beyond their normal physical limits under certain conditions. Phase converters allegedly enable industrial-grade, three-phase power generation for factories and heavy machinery applications. These are integral components of what the company describes as a complete energy ecosystem. This wasn't marketed as just another renewable energy solution competing with solar or wind. The positioning was far more ambitious, making the entire concept of external energy sources obsolete. Supporters of the technology ask why anyone should connect to the grid when power could be generated on-site, or why install solar panels when electricity could be produced regardless of weather conditions. Hulkcom promised to render every existing power generation method unnecessary. At first, the specs sound amazing, but the details don't quite add up. Hulkcom says its electromagnetic generator can power anything from tiny LED lights to big industrial motors without using any control systems or feedback loops. They also claim the magnetic fields stay perfectly stable forever, unlike normal magnets that eventually weaken and need replacing. Supporting documentation describes complex electromagnetic interactions that Hulkcom claims create more energy output than the system consumes internally. According to the company, the magnets don't just generate electricity, they somehow amplify their own magnetic fields through the interaction with copper coils, creating a feedback loop that grows stronger rather than weaker over time. But extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, and Hulkcom knew they needed to move beyond theoretical promises to demonstrate real-world performance. Demonstrations that defied belief. Hulkcom staged multi-site demonstrations across residential, commercial, industrial, and remote off-grid locations, presenting meters, timestamps, and witnesses to support claims of zero grid draw. These were real-world installations designed to prove the HES could replace conventional power sources entirely. The testing program spanned multiple locations and applications, from homes that had never been connected to electrical infrastructure to businesses operating equipment exclusively on HES units. The methodology behind these demonstrations appeared rigorous at first glance. Hulkcom's documentation showed HES units deliberately disconnected from all external power sources, with electrical connections severed and meters installed to verify zero grid consumption. According to their presentations, witnesses observed air conditioners maintaining comfortable temperatures during summer heat waves, lights illuminating entire buildings through the night, and manufacturing equipment operating at full capacity. Hulkcom says it powered a 12,000 square foot building, restaurants, and manufacturing equipment while maintaining consistent voltage and frequency output regardless of demand fluctuations. Those are big claims, but big claims demand rigorous third-party testing. Stress testing allegedly pushed these systems beyond normal operating conditions. Tests in the desert pushed the machines to extreme heat, temperatures that would normally shut down regular generators. But Hulkcom says its units kept running without losing strength. Freezing cold conditions that drained batteries and thickened lubricants had no apparent effect on electromagnetic generators with no moving parts. Continuous heavy loads that would overwhelm typical backup power systems ran for days without reducing output capacity, according to Hulkcom's documentation. Hulkcom's documentation efforts captured every aspect of these demonstrations through multiple channels. Video footage showed electrical meters reading zero grid consumption while buildings operated normally, with timestamps and location data embedded to prevent editing manipulation. Witness testimonials came from building owners, local officials, and independent observers who verified the demonstrations personally. They ran the batteries for weeks, sometimes months, tracking them every day, and the power stayed steady the whole time. Was anything hiding off camera? Independent verification presented the central challenge for observers trying to confirm these extraordinary claims. The background research identifies specific verification weaknesses that raised red flags for skeptical observers. Limited witness access restricted comprehensive technical inspection, with viewers often confined to specific areas in scheduled time periods. Remote locations made independent monitoring difficult and impeded oversight. Hidden underground cables could supply power from distant sources without visible connection, while concealed battery banks might provide temporary power during demonstration periods. Video documentation and selective meter readings don't equal full independent lab analysis. Independent labs typically look for hidden cabling, thermal signatures, or battery systems that the research notes as verification concerns. The demonstration sites themselves raised additional questions about verification protocols. Urban installations offered multiple potential power sources within electromagnetic coupling range, while electromagnetic induction from nearby power lines could potentially transfer energy wirelessly to disguised receiving equipment. Even sophisticated measurement equipment might miss carefully designed power injection systems that operated intermittently or at frequencies outside normal detection ranges. What specific demonstrations did Hulkcom stage to prove their device could power entire buildings without grid connection? Hulkcom orchestrated multi-site demonstrations across different environments, claiming sustained power delivery to complete facilities while maintaining total grid disconnection. These included residential installations, commercial buildings, industrial facilities, and remote off-grid locations, all supposedly operating exclusively on HES-generated electricity for extended periods under witness observation. Yet these demonstrations raised as many questions as they answered, particularly about what Hulkcom was actually selling beyond the core electromagnetic generator. The complete energy revolution, Hulkcom's proposed ecosystem extended far beyond a single electromagnetic generator. This wasn't a device competing with existing renewable technologies. It was a complete reimagining of how electricity gets generated, distributed, and consumed across every sector of modern civilization. The HES toolkit incorporated specialized components designed to handle every aspect of power management, from residential lighting to heavy industrial applications. Though the extraordinary technical and logistical gaps between prototype demonstrations and global deployment would require mass production capabilities, regulatory approval, and long-term durability testing. The comprehensive system included inline power generators that Hulkcom claimed could transform how renewable energy sources operated. These devices could supposedly take solar panels producing 500 watts under optimal conditions and amplify that output to 2,000 watts or more, regardless of cloud cover or sun angle. Wind turbines generating modest power during light breezes would suddenly produce peak output equivalent to hurricane-force winds. The inline generators claim to extract additional energy from electromagnetic fields surrounding any power source, multiplying output through magnetic field manipulation rather than mechanical amplification. Phase converter systems enabled what Hulkcom described as industrial three-phase power generation for factories and heavy machinery applications that normally require direct grid connection. Manufacturing equipment designed for 480-volt three-phase power could supposedly operate from single-phase HES generators through electromagnetic conversion processes. Welding equipment, industrial motors, and production line machinery would receive properly synchronized three-phase power with correct voltage relationships and phase timing. These converters claim to maintain power factor correction and harmonic filtering automatically, delivering cleaner electricity than many utility companies provide to industrial customers. Note how proponents often use technical language like amplification and phase conversion to make extraordinary claims sound plausible. This rhetorical strategy appears throughout similar energy breakthrough announcements. When evaluating such claims, listen for this pattern of familiar engineering terms applied to impossible physics. Hulkcom's vision suggested this technology could fundamentally restructure how civilization generates and distributes power. But that outcome would require independent proof, mass production, and regulatory approval. The traditional model of massive centralized power plants connected through extensive transmission networks would become unnecessary if the system worked at scale. Coal plants, natural gas facilities, nuclear reactors, and even large solar farms would lose their economic advantage when every building could generate unlimited power on site, though such widespread adoption would face enormous infrastructure and regulatory hurdles. The vision of decentralized energy painted a picture where every home, office, and factory becomes its own power plant, immune to grid failures and energy price fluctuations. Hulkcom's vision suggests blackouts could be reduced if their system worked at scale, but that outcome would require independent proof, mass production, and regulatory approval. Storm damage to transmission lines wouldn't affect local power supplies. Economic manipulation of energy prices through market speculation would lose impact when consumers produce their own electricity at zero marginal cost. Transformative implications extended to global development patterns and technological advancement. Developing nations could leapfrog traditional grid infrastructure entirely, installing HES units in remote villages without constructing transmission lines across hundreds of miles of difficult terrain. Electric vehicles equipped with onboard HES generators would achieve unlimited range, recharging themselves continuously while driving without stopping at charging stations. If real, this could disrupt centralized utilities and fuel markets. If unproven, it's a marketing narrative built on hope. What supporting components beyond the core generator make up Hulkcom's complete energy system? HES represented a complete power ecosystem. Inline generators, phase converters, and amplification systems designed to replace centralized energy infrastructure entirely. These components work together to handle everything from residential power needs to industrial applications requiring specialized voltage and frequency characteristics. But revolutionary visions and extraordinary demonstrations mean nothing without meeting the rigorous standards that separate genuine breakthrough science from compelling marketing promises. The bottom line, the Hulkcom Energy System promised to solve humanity's energy crisis through Dr. Robert Hall's electromagnetic generator technology. Here are the 3 strongest takeaways from our investigation. First, Hulkcom's claims of self-sustaining magnetic generators are extraordinary and conflict with the law of energy conservation. Second, Hulkcom staged demonstrations with meters and witnesses, but independent lab-style verification remains the central outstanding question. Third, even if a component works, scaling to the global revolution they promise would require massive independent testing, manufacturing, and regulatory review. When evaluating similar claims in the future, watch for these red flags: unverified live demos with limited independent access, reliance on selectively presented meters and video footage, and grand economic promises without peer-reviewed validation. The system, as described by Hulkcom, appears to conflict with the first law of thermodynamics, which is why independent, rigorous testing is essential. The first question any serious test of this device would raise is simple. What should be examined first to prove whether it truly works? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more investigative explainers. The growing desperation for clean energy solutions helps explain why devices like the Hulkcom Energy System attract so much attention, making critical evaluation more important than ever.